and today is Tuesday, January 11th, 2005, and I'm here with John, how do you say that?
Vitagliano.
Vitagliano. Alright, where did you grow up?
In Rutland, Vermont.
And how was life like during the Depression?
Well, I'll tell you, cabbage was only 2 cents a pound, eggs were a quarter a dozen, and a loaf of bread was a nickel, a quart of milk was a dime. And but my father had a pretty good job, and we got along pretty good. We did well. My father had a good trade. He worked for the house scale company over there, and he worked there most of his lifetime. So he did a good job raising our family. And in 1939, I went into the service, just as the war started in Europe. You want me to keep on going here, or no?
If you want, you can.
Well, I had signed up to go to the Philippines, and by the time I got into the outfit, they were filled up. At the time, there was only 275,000 people in the services, all combined. All combined. Army, Navy, Marine, everything, Coast Guard. And I was lucky to get in the Army. Well, I finally got it to Panama. And in 1942, we left Panama with a secret force and ended up in Dutch Guiana. And we were there 4 days before Pearl Harbor. We took German prisoners. And I spent 3 years there, then I came back to the States. And after I came back to the States, I ended up in a combat engineer outfit. And they were training us to go back to Korea. And the point system came out in June of 45, and I had enough points to go out. And I got out.
You were lucky then.
Yeah, well, I had married when I first came back to the States, and my wife was pregnant, and that's why I did get out. I hadn't planned on getting out, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. So what were your feelings when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
Well, the way it happened, why it was easy to get people to go fight. It's a lot easier now than having these young people to go to Iraq. A lot of them have got sour grapes going over there, but if they have to go, they go, but not wholeheartedly. And I'm glad I lived in the time of World War II instead of this time right here. I'd hate to think I'd have to go there and fight this war now.
So you think they had a more patriotic cause?
Say that again?
You think they had a more patriotic cause with Pearl Harbor than they do now?
USA did. Yes, they did. Yeah. But we got attacked. We personally got attacked in Pearl Harbor, you know.
What age were you when you signed up for military service?
Well, 1939, well, they born in 1919. That would make me about 20 years old, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what branch of service did you serve in?
Army.
Army. Where did you train?
Well, when I got my recruit training up in Fort McKinley, Maine, they opened up the Army post up there. It had been shut down since from World War I time. They opened it up to train. And after I came back to the States, they put me in an outfit where we trained other soldiers with all the experience that we had.
How did you feel before you left for training?
Say that again?
How did you feel before you left for training?
Well, I was anxious to go. I had friends and relatives that had gone into the service, and I did join up with a couple of them, you know. Like I said earlier, I was lucky enough to be one of the soldiers that at any time I didn't get shot at. So what else can I be happy about?
When did you leave training?
When I leave the service,
When did you leave training to like go into like combat and?
well, we didn't go into combat. We were up in Maine for a while, and then we went into Panama in '72. I was in this secret force that, well, we were supposed to stay at different bases for a tour of 2 years and end up in North Africa. But Pearl Harbor was attacked while we were in Discharged. So we were stuck there for the rest of the war, for the rest of the 2 years.
So you were there for 2 years?
From 42 to 44, yeah, 2 years, about 2 years.
Do you remember the first time that you were in a different country?
Yeah, in Panama. I was in pre-World War II Panama, which was a pretty nice place to be at the time. The temperature was nice, and the amenities were nice. The soldiers that were already down there were mostly all old-time soldiers that are ready to retire. And nice setup. And if there wasn't any war, why it would have been great. But there was a war, so we had to train for war. That's all, you know.
Did you ever see any famous generals or meet them?
Yes. When we were in Discharged, I was stationed on Sandray Field, and it was called surname besides being Discharged. And one time General Hap Arnold come in on the base and visited us on the base. Spent about 2 or 3 hours with us. And other than that, why, no other big wheel. We were too far back.
And what were some of your most memorable times in the service?
Well, I would say when in 1945 I was in an outfit with training combat engineers to go to Korea, and we were scheduled to go to Korea within, I don't know, 6 or 8 months or so, somewhere around in there. And my wife was home pregnant, and I just really didn't want to go. And the point system came out, I was able to get out. Up to that point, why, I was, you know, kind of sketchy, edgy. Now, is she filming all this all the time? Am I going to see this before it's going to be go public or what?
If you want to.
I'd like to.
And what was the closest you came to the enemy?
Well, excuse me, you gotta shut the stove off.
You came to the enemy.
Oh, I don't recall.
Were there any comforts you had while you were away?
Comforts?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I can't think of any decent answer for that question.
Yeah. How did the war affect your family?
Oh, the what?
How did the war affect your family?
Well, I had uncles and cousins. I was an only child in my family. I was an only boy. And I had uncles and cousins. There's a lot of my relatives were in the service during World War II. But we didn't lose any during the war, so we came out of it pretty good.
And how would you compare the Depression to the war era?
How did I compare the Depression with what?
The war era?
War era? Well, I would say that we were in a very deep depression in 1932, and when we elected Franklin D. Roosevelt as our president, was a new era for this country. It was new prosperity, and the war helped cause the prosperity. It hastened it, put a lot of money in circulation. There was a lot of money being spent for armament and stuff like that. Put a lot of good people to work for the services and stuff like that to do new weapons and all new stuff. Howard Hughes was a big, big man during World War II. And there's a few others, but that's one that comes to mind. Henry Kaiser was another one. They built a lot of boats that they used in the landing at Normandy when they invaded Normandy. If you got that in your history, did you get about that in your history?
Yep.
That was very good.
So economically speaking, during the war era, we were better off? Had more money?
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. When I first went into the service, I started out in 1939 at $21 a month. Room and board and clothes. Today a soldier gets a lot more than that. He gets 5 times that much a week.
Yeah.
Yep. So I have no complaints. I did all right. I come home and I got myself a good job. And I worked in the mill for the last 30 years, and I've been retired now for 20 years, 25 years. And I'm doing okay.
Do you think World War II was a turning point in your life?
Oh, I don't know. I never give it much thought. I haven't thought about it much. Hey, that was my time growing up, you know. Now if I ended up being a big shot somewhere, why it would be an entirely different story for you. But I'm just another common veteran, that's all, of World War II. And there's a lot of us out there. Too bad you couldn't get to interview somebody bigger, and I'm thinking of someone bigger that I could line up for you.
Did you have to get any shots or vaccinations before you left?
Not before we left. We got them before. We got all kinds of shots all during the service.
And do you remember how the weather was?
Well, when I was in the tropics, it was nice and warm. We had an average temperature of about 90 degrees down there in Suriname, Discharged, all the while we were there. It wasn't bad.
And did you ever get to speak with the people of the different countries while you were stationed there?
Say that again?
Did you ever get to speak with people from the different countries while you were stationed there?
Oh yeah, while we were in Discharged, there was a lot of Vietnamese people there, and there was a lot of Chinese people that we got very well acquainted with down there. And the younger people that they had, they were preschool, pre-high school kids that we used to play basketball and different sports with them and stuff like that, to keep things going other than that way. wasn't anything unusual.
How did you get your mail?
How did I get my mail? Well, the truck used to come over to the area, toot the horn, we'd all go up in the back of the truck and they'd throw a mail at us. Call your name, throw your mail at you.
Get a lot of mail?
Well, I don't know if I got a lot. There was others that didn't get as much as I did. There was a lot of them that got a lot more than I did. I didn't write too many letters. I used to write to my mom and, girlfriend, my cousin. Other than that, why I didn't write much.
Did you celebrate any holidays while you guys were away?
Yeah, we celebrated Christmas. I don't remember how. And celebrated Thanksgiving Day the proper way with a big meal and all stuff like that. Other than that, why there wasn't anything unusual with that situation.
How did you feel when Franklin Roosevelt died?
Nothing unusual. Hey, he was old enough. He had to go sometime. And we had a good president when he did pass away. Harry Truman was a very good president. So he carried on and did a very good job.
Did you agree with Truman's decision to drop the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. It shortened up the war. There would have been a lot more Americans killed if we hadn't dropped those bombs. Yeah, I think that was a good idea to drop those bombs. And I think maybe we got to drop one on Iraq.
Where were you when they announced the end of the war?
I was back in Glens Falls. I was working at the Post Star when they announced the end of the war with Japan. And I think I still got the newspaper. I worked on it.
Do you have any other war stories that you would like to share?
Yeah, I guess not. I guess not. The story that I would tell would be a very different crowd. No, I'm all right. What else do you have to know?
Did you ever have trouble trying to talk about the war or watch like documentaries?
No. No, I never was Section 8 material. You don't know what Section 8 is, do you? Well, there was a lot of people in the service at the time that they couldn't cope, and their mind would snap, and they would get discharged with a Section 8. That's what they call it, Section 8 discharge. If you were Section 8 material, out you'd go. And there was some out there that try to make them think that they were Section out so they could get out. Other than that, why? What else?
How do you feel about who was the enemy then, like the Germans and the Japanese? How do you feel about them now?
Well, my theory is this country's been in a war around every 20 years in the existence of this country, and I think we need a war to sharpen up that generation of people and to keep the economy moving. We've done all right up until this Iraq deal. But I have a feeling that this Iraq deal, there's somebody out there making a good bundle of money out of it. Americans.
So you don't hold any grudges towards the Germans or the Japanese?
Hmm?
You don't hold any grudges towards the Germans or the Japanese?
I don't have, no, I don't have any grudges. I don't have any grudges against anybody. At my age, why, I'm being mellow.
So what have you done after the war? What did you do after the war?
Well, I worked at the Post Star for a while for $21 a week. And then I worked at Sandy Hill for a year and a half, and then from there, and then knocked around a while, and then I went to Scott Paper Company 40 years in 1950, and I worked there for 30 years, and then I retired. And I've been very well retired since 1980, enjoying it.
Do you keep in contact with anybody that you met during your time in the service?
I have met a couple. We went out to, wife and I went out to Hawaii one time. And on the way out, we stopped at Chicago, at the airport, and I called up a couple of friends of mine that were in my outfit in Vitagliano. After we came back here, one of them tried to come in from Discharged. He got to Glen Falls, or no, he got to Rutland, Vermont, and I had cousins over there that told him that I had passed away. So that was the end of that.
So you haven't heard from anybody from service? You haven't heard from anybody from the service in a while?
Well, my wife and I, we had some very, very close friends in the service. My wife was down there with me, and with the wives of other soldiers that were in my outfit, and we would get together every so often. We'd have get-togethers with about 6 or 8 of those soldiers that we were together with, down in the outfit that I was in when I came back from the service.
Do you go to any reunions?
Nah. I belong to VFW and I belong to the American Legion, but I'm not very active in those organizations. I have enough to do. I go there once in a while and have a couple of beers with the fellas. Other than that, why, I'm not one of these people that in parades and stuff like that.
Other than playing basketball, what did you guys do to occupy your time when you weren't doing anything?
Well, we played a lot of cards. Played a lot of dice. Dice and cards. I spent most of our time down there. And we played sports, basketball, we played tennis, football, and season baseball. Somebody else might say it was pretty boring, but we did okay.
Well, I think that's it. So,
this is it?
Yep. Thank you for your time and for doing the interview so short notice.
Well, I hope that I fulfilled what you wanted to have done for this interview. I hope you're going to do you're going to be all right with whatever your endeavor is. All right?
Thank you very much.